Good afternoon, everybody. It is just afternoon now, yeah. Welcome to the our March 2023 Your Overseas Home virtual event. Might have had some of you tune into the previous one about buying in France. Well, we're back now for another one, focusing on France. And this one is going to be looking at how to budget for your purchase in France and how to choose the right property, the right area, with regards to how much you want to spend and how to get all that just right. So my name's Richard Way. I'm an international property journalist and a writer on the Property Guides team. I'm going to be hosting this session. Well, in fact, most of it's going to be presented to you by Chris Summers from Beau Village Immobilier, who we're lucky to have on the panel today. And he's going to be talking through what I just mentioned, so budgeting and choosing the right location. Chris himself is based in the town of Berlac in, it's not the Limousin, is it? Is that whereabouts?
Yep. In the Limousin, isn't it?
Yeah.
France,
yeah. So he's done the whole buying experience and moving to France, so he's got lots of personal experience to draw on. So it's great to have people watching today. Thanks for joining us and tuning in. Just quickly, I mean, the idea of this event and these seminars is to give you guidance from experts, from specialists who've worked in the French property market for a number of years. They've got lots of experience, lots of local knowledge, and we're here to answer your questions as well. It's a good opportunity to ask questions, learn from other people's questions as well. So what I'm going to do is Chris is going to do a presentation, which is going to last about 15 minutes. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A tool on your dashboard, and then I'll pick them up and feed them to Chris at the right time. You can do that during the presentation, but we'll try and do most of them afterwards, just so he has a chance to get through it all. And then if we don't answer your question during this session, or you want more information, you can find Chris and his colleagues from Beau Village Immobilier on their booth in the main exhibition hall. So go along there afterwards. Great opportunity to speak to these guys who are based in France. So you don't need to be in France. You can just ask them all your questions now, and hopefully get ready to make your next step to buying France and going over there and doing a viewing trip with people like Chris. So Chris, hi. Just tell us quickly about yourself. You live in Berlac. How long have you been in France? How long have you been with Beau Village?
Yeah, I've been in property for 34 years. There's not much I haven't seen in the property world. I've worked in France now for 3 years with Beau Village, and I worked for 3 years in the Canary Islands and 27 years in the UK. So I've seen quite a wide spectrum, and I've been through every possible market you can imagine. So no question's a silly one. So hopefully we can answer all your questions.
Okay, great. Do you want to kick off? Are you going to share your
Yep, I'll share my screen. Just bear with me while I do this. Can everyone see that okay?
There we go. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so my name's Chris Summers from Beau Village. As Richard said, I'm based in Southwest France. I've been there full-time now for 3 years. I've made the move, and thankfully helped a lot of other people make the move, and probably seen most of the things that you're likely to come up against when trying to move to France. The idea of these slides is just to put a header up for each part we're going to talk about, but really about how you can maximize your budget when moving to France, what that budget will include for the other things that you might not think about when coming over, the type of home that you want to get some budget for, and the area, which is critically important as far as I'm concerned. So we'll move on. First thing we're going to talk about, the slides decide to move, just bear with me once. Budget in itself. There's lots of things that come under budgeting. Obviously, the house price being the now these will vary, but on average, you are looking probably between 8 and 10% of the purchase price. That's not all notaire fees. There's a big chunk of tax in property tax, similar to stamp duty in the UK, that you have to pay, but a percentage of that will be for the notaire, but the rest of it will be property tax. Obviously, if you're buying a property at much lower price, that percentage will be higher, but on average, it's between 8 and 10% of your purchase price that you need to allow when you're making an offer on a property. So it's not just the house price. if you're moving over full time, obviously since Brexit, things have changed. You need to pay for your removals, obviously, as you would have had to anyway, but you now have potential taxes to pay on what you're bringing over. Sometimes not. I think it depends on what you're bringing. And of course, you need to appoint border agents, or the removal company do it on your behalf. But there's a cost to that as well, to having border agents on each side of the channel, which is an added cost that's come in. But I think as a guide, if you kind of allow yourself 10 to 15% on top of what you were thinking for your budget, you'll give yourself that little bit of room should extra costs come up. Obviously, if you get a cheaper house, then you'd have that money within that budget. But for me, I think you just need to be realistic and maybe add 10-15% onto what you think you're going to need to make the move to get everything covered under that move, and you won't be in for any surprises then. Size of the property. This is going to depend massively on whether you're coming for a holiday home or a permanent move. Obviously, if it's a permanent move, what size house is really going to work for you? As we know, some areas of France and some properties can be particularly cheap, which kind of makes you think, well, I'm going to go for this huge house and take this huge piece of land, which I get because I've been there myself and done that. So I understand, but there's other things to look at. It's do you need that size house? It's a great, you've seen them online, you think, my God, look at the house we can get for our budget. But do you need that size house? What's ideal for you and acceptable for you on the size of the house? Do you need the extra rooms that you might have rooms for family coming over, but do you need the extra rooms that you might never use? I've seen lots of people buy houses where they never go on the top floor. They might have 2 bedrooms and a bathroom up the top. They've never been there. They use the ground and the first, top floor's never visited. And of course, you pay tax foncière on the house. So the bigger the house, the more the bedrooms, the more the bathrooms, the more your tax foncière, which is your equivalent of a council tax in France, the more that's going to be on a permanent home. So how many bedrooms do you really need? Have a think about it and allow for what you really need. Try not to be drawn into that big house, unless of course you want that huge house. That's totally your decision. As I say, just be aware, because you will pay extra tax on the property. Now, a holiday home is a key one. People often contact us and want a holiday home, and the first thing they say is, we want this size house, we want lots of land, we want 4 acres, 2 hectares, all these outbuildings, which is absolutely fine if you're able to cope with that. But you need to give a thought to, if it's a holiday home, who's looking after all this while you're not there? Who's going to be cutting that grass for you? Who's going to be making sure those barns are in good order? Who's going to be making sure everything's in order at the house? Because it's quite easy to have a big garden. You're coming over for a long weekend, and you can spend your whole weekend doing the garden and not actually enjoying France and relaxing and enjoying what you've come to do. It's a very easy trap to be drawn into, but I totally understand it. I know lots of people that have done it and are very happy. They've paying someone to look after their garden. So when you're budgeting, you might allow for someone to come in once a month, probably, I don't know, maybe for a day's work, 150, 200 euros once a month. They'll come in and completely do the garden for you. And that makes it easier when you arrive. There's lots of people that do that, and lots of good contractors that can provide that service for you. Well, they might come every 2 months, but the agents can normally put you in touch with people to do that. But I think it's, the cost of it, the large garden and looking after it, is it really what you want when you're flying in and out, or you're coming for short periods? It's quite easy to be drawn into having a great big garden, because lots of properties in France do have the big garden. So it's important not to be drawn into that, unless you're very happy with that and you're happy to pay for someone to look after it for you, because you want to come to France, put your bags down and enjoy what France has to offer and enjoy your downtime. Area. Now, for me, choosing the area, I think, is probably the most critical part of coming to France. France is such a vast country, and if you don't try and pin it down, if you don't know France, it's even more difficult. If you know France and you know lots of areas, it's much easier for you. But history tells me, and people we work with on a daily basis, they come over sometimes with a vast area, and it's so difficult to find a property when you're looking in such a vast area. You could be viewing forever, because properties come on the market as you're out, and it's very difficult. I think a lovely house in the wrong location might not work long term. If you've got a lovely house, it's beautiful, but you don't like where it is, or you grow not to like where it is, you're potentially going to move. But if you can have a slightly different house, but in the perfect location, long term, it might work better for you. And that area, you've got to look at, what's that area going to offer for you? What does it look like? There's been a big shift since COVID, unfortunately, since lockdown. Lots of people were, prior to this, were wanting rural properties, a big garden. We want peace and quiet. But whilst that's still very much the case, we have seen a big shift of people wanting to be able to walk to facilities or cycle to facilities, not have to drive 15, 20 miles to them. As I say, lots of people are still buying the rural properties because some people suit that perfectly. But we've definitely seen a big move towards people wanting something that's on the edge of a town, edge of a village with facilities. What do you want from your time in France? Do you want to be isolated and rural and driving to everything, going out to dinner and having to drive? Or do you want the opportunity to be somewhere where you can walk into town, walk into a restaurant, walk into a cafe? You need to weigh those things up. And what else is the area got to have for you? People often don't consider train stations. Having a mainline station in the town opens up a lot more possibilities for you. Potentially, if you move there full time, having a mainline train station where I live, we're fortunate to have one that takes us into Poitiers and into Limoges, from where we can get to Paris, Bordeaux. We can go to other places from there, and it's only a half an hour. So a train station could be quite a good thing to have. But I think it's really what are your must-haves from an area, and what are your likes, and try and draw up a list. If we had to compromise, what would we give up to have the right area? What would we not want? And I think it's it's important. The area for me is vitally important. Choose a town you like, an area you like, and maybe look within 20 kilometers of that town in a circle. It will make it easier trying to find a property. It will stop you traveling miles and miles and miles, because you could be 2.5 hours between your viewing appointments if you're not narrowing down an area. And I think in my opinion, it just makes it harder to find a house if you're looking in such a vast area, because there's so much to look at, and it just makes it very difficult. You're almost blindsided by the amount of property available over that vast area. So if you know France at all, try and pin an area down. If you don't know France, come over, get to know it, see what areas you like, what town might work for you, what's got the facilities. Do you need doctors, medical facilities, pharmacies? Do you need them to? Is that need to have? I imagine it is. Things happen, and we all need those. Suit your needs and your lifestyle, somewhere you like to live, and then look within a circle of that, a 20-kilometer circle of that area. That would be my advice on the area. What does your ideal area look like? Well, we've just really covered that. I think, it's what's personal to you, what's important to you. Some people are happy to be rural, as I say. Some people are happy to drive everywhere, want that peace and quiet for the 2 weeks they're in France. Some people want to be able to walk in and enjoy the social scene that France has to offer in abundance. But, do yourself a list. What's important? What must we have? What would we like? What without a doubt, you do need to compromise. Must-haves and like-to-haves. Now I'm talking about the house here. We've covered the area, and it's a very similar process on the house. What is it? What must it have? And again, I would have two lists. I would have a list of what we must have in our house. We're not going to compromise on that. We must have a one with a bath, not just a shower room. We must have a garden that's fenced in, or we must have a pool. Have those 3 or 4 things on your must list, and don't vary off of that. If they're really important to you, you will find them. Have a separate list, which is your like to have. So we need those. We'd also like to have, but those like to haves are the things you might compromise on if the area was perfect for you, but the house didn't have everything you wanted. So you might compromise on those situations, but have 2 lists. And stick to your must-haves, because they won't, keep that list as short as you can, your must-haves, but you will find those. So don't be afraid to stick to those. It's the like-to-haves that you might have to compromise on. So that list is probably going to be a bit longer, but you will need to compromise, because it's very hard to find a house that's going to tick every single box. No different to buying anywhere in the world, really. It's quite hard to find that. You've got 10 boxes to tick all 10. It's quite difficult when you're searching for a house. So really, try and prioritize what we can not have, but what we must have, and make sure you tell the agent that, when you're looking, what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be taken to houses that are simply not what you're looking for. You don't want to get to them and be disappointed every time. But if your agent's very clear what you need, you've got the budget in place, you've told them the type of house you want, you've told them what you must have, then you should be taken to houses that are going to work for you, and you'll be seeing properties that will suit your needs, and you won't be wasting your time going to houses that you walk into and immediately they haven't got some of the things you want. So make sure the agent's very clear what you must have and what you'd like, and he can do that search for you and try and marry the matters together. Cost of renovation. Now, this really does come into budgeting if you are looking to buy something that's needs work. France, I'm sure you're all looking on the websites and looking at what's on the market. You'll see a lot of properties that need renovation, all different budgets, 20,000 up to 500,000. You'll see properties that need renovation. Now, renovation is it's a big thing in France, and a lot of overseas buyers come and do renovation. Just some things to bear in mind, really. The time and cost with renovation. Now, history tells me always allow more time, always allow more cost, because you think you can get it done in 6 months, it might take you a year. You think it's going to cost you 20, it'll cost you 30. So always try and give yourself that little bit of extra, just to say, for your own sanity, really, and your own peace of mind. You don't want to go there think we're going to do this in 6 months, a year down the line, it's not finished, you're frustrated, you're stressed out with it. So allow yourself to, okay, well, we'd like it done in 6 months, but if it takes a year, we're okay with that. We have a budget, we have an extra 20% on top for things that might happen. So make sure you cover that off. Also, remember that DIY materials in France are a lot more expensive than the UK. I've never really pinned down why that is, to be honest. It's a bit strange, because even the simple things that you go into DIY shop for, paints, paintbrushes, rollers, they are a lot more expensive. And like I say, I've never really worked out why that is. But so just allow for that within your budgeting. Whatever you buy on your house, it's going to cost more. And it's the same with building materials, no different to the UK. I've got friends that are builders in the UK and having renovations done, and building materials have gone up massively in the last 2 years. Everything's more expensive. So just make sure you cover that off when you budget, so you're not surprised. You can't, a lot of people used to come to France and bring stuff from the UK to do their DIY, but that's much more difficult now, because unless you're sneaking it in, which I wouldn't advise, you can't really bring paint, you can't bring the things we used to bring in, you can't really bring in anymore because of the borders now, although it's much cheaper. So it's your call whether you decide to bring that over. But and also, if you're bringing brand new stuff over, you potentially might have to pay tax on it. If you've got receipts for it, it's brand new, it's not second hand, be that ladders or whatever it might be. If it's not second hand, you might potentially be asked to pay tax on it if you were stopped or had your car looked at the border. But just bear these things in mind. It's not, renovation is brilliant, and you can do some brilliant things with houses in France, but it is going to cost you more than you think. Probably sitting there now, it's going to cost you more than you think. Using artisans in France, there's a lot of them, British and French. Through personal experience, and I really have had personal experience of this, it's so important you use artisans that can evidence their work and who are recommended. You need to see what they've done before. It's important that you go and, where can I look at something you've done already? Do you have a portfolio, a brochure, work you've done? Can I talk to someone you've done work for? If they're recommended to you, then that's always a great sign with the work that's finished. So make sure they've got their 10-year decennial insurance as well. All the good artisans will have a 10-year insurance policy that ensures your work. Because if anything was to go back on that insurance, the buyer will pick up that guarantee. If you've done all the work yourself, keep receipts for anything you bought. But if you can't provide factures for doing the work, the invoices for the artisans, when it comes to selling, you've done it all yourself, you are personally responsible for that work for a period of 10 years. Now I'm talking electrics, the roof, the bigger jobs, not the smaller things. But you are responsible for them for up to 10 years. So if you did it this year, you'll be responsible till 2033. So if you sell it in 5 years, you're still responsible for that because you did it yourself for 5 years, and that will go in the compromis that you've done the work yourself, and you will be liable. And I'm not talking if a light bulb goes or if a switch breaks, but if there was major problems with the work you've done, you could be held liable for that work for up to a 10-year period of doing the work. So getting artisans in to do the big jobs, the roofs, the electrics, the bigger jobs that are much harder to do, getting a good artisan in with that insurance will make a massive difference to you, peace of mind, and when you sell the house, if you decide to sell it. And keep everything you do, every receipt, every invoice you get, keep absolutely everything, because notaires are becoming tougher and tougher on work done to houses. They want to know everything that's been done, what's been changed, what bills have you got, what receipts have you got. Also, you need to get planning and everything needs to be got, and your agents can help you with that through the local mairie. Always check planning. If you think you might need it or you might not, check it first, because if you come to sell it and you haven't got planning for something you should have got planning on, they're going to want the notaire is going to want you to get after consent. So they're going to want you to go and get planning after you've done the work, and if you don't get it and you've done the work, it might cause you a problem. So just check whether you need planning or not. Okay, last couple of bits for me. The OVN. I live in the OVN in Bellac. The OVN is part of the Limousin. I've been there 3 years full time. We had a previous house holiday home there for 5. So why would you live in the OVN? For me, I think it's bordering the Dordogne and the cruise, but it's still very competitive. Over the last 10 years, it has been a bit saturated. It's a fantastic one that's growing, and we've seen that with the way prices are moving and the people wanting to buy in the OVN. We still get long summers. We get lovely long summers, which is great. We don't get too much rain. A lot of rain we do get, weirdly, tends to be at night, which is nice because you still enjoy your day. I don't really know why that is, but we get a lot of, if we get rain, it tends to be at night. It's easy access from the UK. It's pretty much bang in the middle of France. So if you're going off to the north or the south, I think we're something like 5 or 6 hours from 6 country borders. That is a fantastic feat. You can go to so many places from the OVN. We have great motorway access. We have all the main motorways around us, so you can get everywhere from the OVN. As I say, it's affordable, but that is changing. The scenery is fantastic. The countryside is incredible. Some of the medieval towns in the OVN are outstanding. And one of the key things to me is it's got many, many lakes and man-made beaches around these lakes with water sports. And so if you like lakes and you like fishing, the OVN is fantastic. But the long summers are great. Colder, short winters. I know the weather, I'm in the UK at the moment, but the weather's been in the early 20s there for the last couple of weeks in the OVN, which is a lot of people don't realise, because we're a little bit further north. People think we don't get, but we do get more of the south of France type of weather than we do the north. And property prices, I think, are very reasonable. And I think at the moment, you get great value for your money in the OVN for what you want to buy.
Do you want to give us some examples, Chris, of I don't know, of a detached character house with a bit of land, and then maybe maybe something in a village or a small town?
Yeah, you could get a 4-bedroom barn conversion, really nicely done. 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom barn conversion, fully done. Probably acre of garden, big terrace area, in one of the hamlets for 225,000, and that'll be a very nice barn conversion. You could get a 3-bedroom cottage, maybe a semi-detached cottage in one of the hamlets for 3-bed, 2-bathroom cottage, stone cottage, which is beautiful. You probably get one of those for about 140, 145. If you go into the town, there's a lot of medieval towns in the OVN, so you get a lot of 3-story townhouses, medieval townhouses, and you can get a 3-floor, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, living room, kitchen, dining room, maybe a probably 300-400 square meter garden, so more of an in-town style garden, and you'll get one of those for about 90 to 110,000. and
Really?
they'll probably be 130 square meters in size. So there's a wide range of property, but you can get some lovely property for your money either in town or out of town.
And so you're in Burlak, the little town of
Yep.
Burlak. What drew you to that place? I mean, the thing about France is there are lots of similar, very charming little places. I don't know how you choose one over the other. That it looks like I'd be happy in almost any of them because they all have a certain charm and they've got the square or a river. So what made you choose Burlak out of interest? Which is a lovely place.
We stumbled across Burlak, to be honest. We viewed 10 properties over 4 days within an hour circle of kind of that area. So I did follow my own advice there, thank God. So we looked within an hour circle, and we stumbled across it. We had a point. The last house we viewed over a 4-day period. It was middle of May. It was my wife's birthday. It was absolutely pouring with rain, which is a good time to view because you get to see the house, warts and all. And we went down to the river. We had a little house to view by the river, a little holiday home. You can see the river and then the church in that picture. That is Burlak. And we just fell in love with it. We looked up and saw the medieval church, all the houses around the church. The river's beautiful. It's part of the Bâtiment de France area, so it's equivalent to the English heritage type situation. So you can only do certain things. So it's very protected. We just fell in love with it, and we like the fact we could live down by the river, which makes you feel you're really rural, but within 6 minutes we can walk into the town. So you have two very different lifestyles. We can walk to the restaurants, the doctors, the shops, everything we need to. We can walk to it, the station. But when we're at home, we're down on the river. We're in the park area. We feel really rural, but we can walk into the town within 5 minutes, and that was a big part of our move. We wanted to be a part of a social scene. We wanted to be able to walk into town. We didn't want to be driving everywhere. So that ticked all our boxes. And Burlak as a place we just found it very beautiful. People quite charming. Lots going on. Lots of events through the summer. Lots of free festivals and stuff going on. And then when we decided to move full time, we sold that little house on the river. And we bought a house on the banks of the river looking down on it rather than being on it. We bought a bigger house on the banks looking down on the river rather than being on the river. A bigger house, a full-time house. But we love it. But like you say, there's lots of places like Burlak around the Haute-Vienne. And I think, Richard, I think I'm done. Yes. So thank you for listening.
Great. No, that's been really interesting. Thank you very much, Chris. Yeah. Sorry about some of the your sound's been cutting in and out a bit, Chris, but I know some people noticed those, but you're all right now. So we've got a couple of minutes left. So I was just going to highlight really what you were saying about choosing a location and the size of France. This is why your agent is so important when you're buying in not just France, anywhere abroad, because it's not like buying in the UK or where you already live, where you could drive around areas at your leisure and just see properties. And you need someone on the ground out there who knows the area. And people listening now, if they appoint Beauvillage, they become your eyes and ears and your local knowledge, and they will then bring you properties, people like Chris, to actually, these are the options that fit your requirements. I'm sure you get people who see stuff on the internet and they come over and they say, I've seen this property, I know it's right for me, looks brilliant, but actually, it's great for guidance, but until you get out there and you're with an agent, someone like Chris, who can show you things for what they are.
Just make your goals clear, make your needs clear, and just come out here and pick an area and view the houses. It's not, you drive around the UK, like Richard said, you'll see lots of for sale boards. You can phone the agent up from the board. We don't really have for sale boards unless you're right in the town. You won't really see for sale boards. So that's not easy to do. So you need to let the agent do the work for you, but give them all the information so they can help you properly.
And you shouldn't need another agent. Once you're with Beauvillage, they will go and, you don't need to go and find other agents in the area because they will source all the properties that will fit your requirements.
And if you see one that's on the market, not with us, we can approach
there he goes. We've lost you again, Chris.
Hi, sorry. So I was just saying,
you're back.
If you see a house that's not with us, we can approach them for you under what's called a mandat de recherche. We can approach them for you and get you in that house to view it, and you'll still be dealing with the one agent.
Brilliant. Very quickly, we are actually out of time, but we've talked about budgeting for your purchase. But obviously, once you own the property, you're going to have running costs. Do your taxes and your bills, your utilities, give an idea of what someone, say, buying a holiday home, they're going to need to spend month by month. And does it vary much depending on the size of the property, if it's detached with 4 bedrooms or a 2 up, 2 down village house? Just give an indication. And also compared to the UK, how does it compare? No, he's not. Hello, Chris. No, he's frozen for good. Okay, we are out of time. I think we've lost Chris now. I think his connection's not great, but so if you can hear us, Chris, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone listening. Someone was asking, is Chris an agent? Yes, he works for Beau Village Immobilier, and they have a booth in the main exhibition hall. So Chris is there with his colleagues. You can go and speak to him and then get more information. Hopefully this has been useful. The session has been recorded, so it will be available to watch again on the Your Overseas Home website, I think from Monday onwards, but just check back if it's not there on Monday. Otherwise, we have another session on financial planning and tax in France when you move over there, which is at 1:15, so that might be useful for anyone who's relocating to France. And then another one at 2 o'clock, which is looking at the legal process of buying and French property law. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the event. Good luck with your search in property in France. Thank you.